What's going on, everybody? Coach Stefan here. I'm with one of our client, Darren Peterson. Say what's up.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's going on? He is, decided to so generously said that he would just do a client interview and testimonial. So basically, guys, I just want him to give you a little perspective of what it's like to be a client with Pursuit, and just some of his experience so far. So, Darren, you've been with us for like what, like a year and a half or something?
I'd say a little over about a year and a month-ish.
Okay.
I think
So,
I say I started November last year.
okay. Yeah. So a little over a year. If you can remember that long, I know it's like a lot of things happen in a year, but what made you kind of like join the program and get some help in the first place?
Well, I had I had been working out probably for about a year at that point, and I was kind of perplexed, I guess I should say, that I wasn't like exactly seeing the results that I thought I was gonna be seeing by working
Hmm.
out as heavily as I did at that point. And I remember meeting you on Facebook, probably a Facebook group or something like
Yeah.
that, and you had started mentioning to me about nutrition, and lo and behold, a couple of I signed up for the program for nutrition, and it felt like it immediately started working.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Just give you guys a little bit of insight. Like Darren is, he's a workout fanatic, works out all the time, very extremely dedicated. But, and by the way, he's a nutrition only client, which we generally don't do anymore. We kind of mostly do nutrition and training. But for him, he's like, look, I already go to CrossFit, 4 or 5 days a week. Like I already work with a trainer. But unfortunately, a lot of times in those realms, like nutrition is kind of one of those missing things. And I told him, like, man, you're working out like crazy. You work really hard. This is probably that missing link and really getting the body composition. And I knew that like as soon as we dialed in the macros for you, right, that like you were going to get results. And I think the first thing you wanted to do was I don't remember if you first started on a cut or a bulk. Do you remember?
I started on a cut.
On a cut. Okay, that's what I thought. So you started on a cut, and you had, I mean, how do you feel about the results you got like in the first, let's just say 6 months of the program?
I mean, I was amazed. The first 6 months of the program, let's see, I would bring us to around May. And I mean, that's when everybody also started noticing a lot of the results, like appearance wise.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually really flattering. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to be doing this this for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I remember actually first noticing results probably like a month, 2 months after I started. So
Yeah. I mean, it happens pretty quick. And just to let you guys know, like Darren's in good shape, right? Like he's definitely already in good shape. And I think one of the common misconceptions is like you have to be super out of shape to get a coach. But you don't have to. You can be someone that's like, I mean, I have a coach. I'm in pretty good shape. So I think getting somebody that just is more well versed and more of an expert on a certain field that you're not, even like my head coach Mike coaches me because he's a genius when it comes to exercise programming. And although I know how to do it, I just know it's that next level. And I'll be super transparent with you. I want sometimes just somebody to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, man, just tell me what to eat. And then I don't have to think about it. Do you feel like, like using, I guess, like using the app and the coaching and stuff? I mean, how's the experience been? Do you think it's been easy, hard, in the middle?
I think it's been actually very easy. Um, now and you definitely already know this about me, but I'm a creature of habit to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
where as soon as I like discover like, oh, well, this will fit my macros perfectly for this day, I tend to like do that a lot, and I never really get bored of it. So it's like every morning, for example, it's a very like clockwork. This I'm gonna have my coffee with a little bit of creamer in it, and then I'm gonna have my cereal, or I'm gonna have my oatmeal,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna go to CrossFit, and then I'm gonna have my protein shake, and then I'm gonna go off to work. And
Yeah.
it's like I know exactly what I'm gonna have for lunch, and it's actually very easy, and it makes it so I don't even have to honestly think about anything.
Yeah. No, and honestly, man, like hats off to you. You're very, very diligent with your nutrition and your training. And that's, I think, part of the reasons you've had really good results, right? Like you're tracking every day. You don't really ever miss days. You zero out your nutrition almost every day, but it attests to like, it's easy to follow, right? And I think the fact that, we do give you, daily access and we have weekly in-depth check-ins, like it gives you time. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like it gives you time to just ask those questions, like, why am I eating this much? Or, hey, I'm doing this type of training, but I don't see my body changing. Do you feel like that's pretty accurate?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it it was actually very helpful when you would explain those things to me too, because like half the time I'm just it's good to know why you're doing something the way you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's more, I tell people, our other clients too, it's more emotional buy-in. It's like your parents, like, go do this. And like, you'll do it because you're going to get in trouble, but it, it's not the same thing, right? Like if you actually bought into it and you're like, oh, and those light bulbs click, not only are you more likely to do it, but you feel better about doing it. And when you buy in, like you said, in the first couple months, you notice results, you're like, okay, this works. Right. And then if you ask questions and you were explained to it about why, you're like, oh, okay. And then I think part of that has been in with like how consistent you've been. Like, why would you be consistent with something that was difficult and didn't work? Right. Like you're consistent with something that is going to be decently easy, right? You're like, hey, I could do this over and over and over again. And then you kind of identify at work. So that's awesome, man. You've had, like I said, you've been a joy to work with. You're super great client. You're very like on point with everything. You make my job super easy as a coach. Darren's super diligent. So I mean, going back, like if you could give some advice to maybe somebody like thinking about joining, I'd guess like what advice would you give them? And then like, who do you think this program is good for?
I mean, I think the programs can be good for anybody. I mean, it's one thing like I mean, basically how you said it too, and just like my journey in fitness altogether, or when it first started, was it's it's always great when you find out that there's that one piece that you just don't know about,
Mm-hmm.
and how perfectly it fits into everything. Like I mean, like I said, it was 6 months after I started with the nutrition. Um, it's but I mean that's basically when beach season started over
Yeah.
here. I absolutely love being out on the beach, and I just got noticed a lot. So I mean, like basically, anybody who wants to just take their fitness and nutrition to a next level, it's best to always have help.
Yeah, for sure,
I,
man. And that's awesome. And I think like, would you say that it helped you like stay more consistent? The fact that you had results quick and then, like people were noticing, do you think that like that momentum helped you?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always have to like, it's just funny too, because whenever I'm like out with my friends or something and they're like, oh, why don't you get this? We're going to get all this stuff at this restaurant. I'm like, no, I'm good. I have, I got everything planned out already today.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, you have a lot of like self-control. And I think it's also just, hey, this is our plan. Like, this is my plan. And I know that the more I do it, the quicker I get to my goal. Right. You're very, very dedicated. And I mean, do you feel like the way that I coach nutrition, or, do you think it's restrictive, or do you feel like you're able to kind of still live most of your like social life and do some things you want? Or
I mean, it hasn't really hindered me at all. I don't think it's restrictive at all. Honestly, it feels more like a game sometimes, where it's just like, oh, I can make this fit.
yeah,
All I have to do is type it in my thing. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's restrictive at all. I mean, it's like you're on a diet, this particular diet, and it's just like, okay, that's no problem. I can still eat whatever I want, just not as much.
yeah.
Or
Right. Right. And I think like honestly going in the new year, like that's people's main concern, I think, right? Like nutrition and am I going to have to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice for the rest of my life? No, Darren doesn't. But to be super transparent with you guys, like you have to be a creature of habit. He could tell you at some capacity, right? Like if you try to eat different things every single day, 7 days a week, it's going to make your life complicated. But Darren and I, being his coach, I've kind of seen like he's the same way I am. He basically eats like the same breakfast every day. And it makes it easy because he knows that's going to take care of X amount of nutrition. And I didn't tell him what to eat. He eats the breakfast that he wants to eat, that makes him feel good, that he enjoys. And so he's eating that breakfast. and it's basically the same every day, which makes it easy because when he wants to go have some drinks or go out and eat or whatever, like he kind of knows what's been taken care of like early on in the day. And I think that's part of the reason that you're so diligent with your nutrition. I mean, you've figured it out. You have it down to a science, which is awesome. But like I said, I think most people's concern is like, man, this can be super hard. It can't work with my lifestyle. And so that's like one of my last questions for you is you've gone through a lot of things since you've been in this program, like life things, work things, moving. Do you feel like, because we do obviously train a lot of like veterans, first responder, you're a veteran. Do you think that people that are like shift workers, what if their excuse is like, I'm so busy, like, I have a weird schedule, like I can't make this fit. What would you say to those people?
I mean, I think that, I mean, I could say I get what they're saying, but how could you be too busy to eat? You have to eat. I mean, that's what,
Yeah.
that's just part of life. But it's just, I mean, I've never not been able to figure it out, I guess is the easy way to say it. Like it's not like it takes up a whole lot of your time and you have to eat anyway because you're a human being.
Right. Right.
It's
No,
just deciding what to eat.
yeah. Right. And that's literally, and that's what I tell you guys, if you're listening to this, is like, you're eating anyways all day, every day until you die. In fact, I'd say like between eating and like going to the bathroom and sleeping, and since you have to do it every day, all day, forever, why would you not want to figure out the best way to do something you have to do forever? You know what I mean? Like, and I think you realize that early on and you're like, okay, I know I'm eating pretty healthy, but I'm missing this one component, and you figured it out. And now like your exercise more or less is the constant, right? Like, and then the nutrition varies. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, oh, like when I change my exercise, everything has to change. Like, no. You have, and you do, more performance training than a lot of people, right? Like you're in a CrossFit and you have like performance goals. Most people, don't. They're like, I want to look good. I have these aesthetic goals. And so for you too, you've been balancing a lot. You've been balancing performance plus wanting to look good, plus, your schedule and everything. And like, if you've been able to do it very, very, very well, I think other people can do it too, and obviously it comes down to like, how bad do you want it? Like I'm sure some days it's a little bit extra for you to like enter your food or, plan ahead. But like you said, I personally think it's actually freedom. Like, I don't feel like it's restrictive because it creates emotional freedom. That way, when you're like going out to eat and you're doing things, you're like, I'm doing this without shame or guilt. Like, it kind of fits in. Or even if you had a day where you're like, screw it, I'm just going off the charts. You've had so many good days that one day is like, not going to make a big difference.
No, it's
Yeah,
actually,
man.
especially with like, going back to the creature of habit thing. Honestly, that's an easy thing to do too, because it's like, oh, great. That's one thing I don't actually have to think about today. All I have to do is just take my pre-packaged things that I already have and eat them.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's just less barriers, right? You're like, the more, and you said, I really love that you said that the less you have to think about and like process and like have to like, well, what am I going to do? And when am I going to do it? That just creates barriers, right? We start thinking of all the reasons we can't, oh, we're too busy and we don't have a plan. But if you know what you're going to do tomorrow, like at work, like if your boss is like, hey, tomorrow when you come into work, this is what you're doing. You're like, okay, you just show up and you do it. Like you've already had that discussion and it would make work so much easier, And so I'm glad that you've kind of came to that realization. And like I said, you've had a ton of success and definitely look forward to like continuing to coach you and going into like doing, I mean, we just got done with a bulk. So put on some size, your strength went up a lot. You're hitting PRs all the time, performance goals, and keeping a really good aesthetic. So I'm pretty excited to see like what you're going to look like this summer compared to last summer.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. Well, I do appreciate you jumping on. This is super helpful. Like I said, hats off to you. You're honestly an amazing client and you do such a good job at getting your stuff done. You make my job easy as a coach, but your results speak for themselves too. I mean, yes, our program works and the coaching works, but a lot of it goes to you too, being really diligent with all your stuff. So
Thank you.
yeah, of course, man. Well, I appreciate it, guys. If you have any questions for me, definitely hit me up on social media, and I'm sure Darren wouldn't even mind. I don't want to speak for him, but like answering questions if you had specific questions to ask him
Anytime.
for the program
Anytime.
too. Yeah, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you jumping on.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.